One more speaker is there. No?
Yes, sir. He's joining. Zoom is updating for him. Okay. Right. Namaskar and a very warm welcome to everyone for today's event. The webinar today is for World Environment Day. We are organizing this webinar under the aegis of the Government of India UNDP Wildcats project. And the World Environment Day, as everyone knows, is celebrated every year on June 5th to increase awareness and improve action towards safeguarding our environment. The theme for this year's World Environment Day is land restoration, desertification, and drought resilience. The theme emphasizes on the urgent need that we require to address land degradation and the impacts of desertification and drought in alignment with global efforts. India also has a commitment under the UN Convention for combating desertification to achieve land degradation neutrality by 2030. And on this note, I now invite Dr. Rajesh Gopal, Secretary General of the Global Tiger Forum, to please say a few words before we begin with our talks.
Thank you. Thank you, Arundhati. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
So I see Dr. Gokhale here, and though I don't see Ayan Sadhuji, but his name is there. So then, of course, I see Roy and other participants. They may be there, but I don't see them. But let me first compliment you for organizing this, and I also appreciate the presence of Dr. Gokhale to participate in this. Now I see, thank you. And now I see Dr. Ayan here. Welcome, Dr. Ayan. So good to see you. And
Thank you, sir.
we'll have it's a very timely thing. Today, as Arundhati said, is today we are aware it's the World Environment Day. So it's a very important theme which he has selected, and people have agreed to articulate on that. Desertification, land restoration, and drought resilience. Now, all these are interconnected, as most of us are aware. So, land degradation goes without saying, it has become a universal phenomenon, more so in developing countries. And lot many figures are available, how much we are losing, how much of land hectares, millions of hectares, they become unproductive ecologically. So we have three parcels of land, three categories, and lot many parcels of land fall in these categories. The forest land parcels, the rural which make interface with the forest, and the rural and the urban which makes either interface with the rural or directly with the forest. We have many forests which make direct interface with cities. Like case in point is Rajaji, Mohan, you have the road, you have the town, everything. Pollachi, you have the tiger reserve just touching the Anamalai Tiger Reserve, touching the urban parts, urban land uses. Yeah, so many examples are there, and the core functions of the forests are lost. And also, the revenue forests, wherever they are, they also have some functions to perform. So, those indicators, which indicate resilience of those areas, and which indicate the ecological ecosystem functions with these land parcels perform, they disappear and they get replaced by others. This cycle we are familiar with very much. The ecological cycle and the triangle, most of us might have read. If you recall in ecology, classes, you must have been told about the ruderal species and other species, which there's a cycle. I just the name of the famous scientist is skipping my mind. But we use this to define the anthropogenic stress continuum. So all this degradation, desertification, which warrant restoration and also re-restoration, they define the ongoing agropastoral, agro anthropogenic stressor continuum, which brutally dictate and strangulate all the conservation efforts. In that context, the small cats, which Arundhati is looking after in another project, which is, and this webinar emanates from that project, which is ongoing. So the small cats are like zoom lenses. They indicate the resilience as well as the well-being of those land parcels. So if they are getting fragmented, if they are getting overused and getting replaced by hardy perennials and phyte and annuals are getting lost, you are ushering a process of seeing a process of degradation. Causes are many. I won't encroach on your themes. So it's good you are participating. So let me reiterate again, these small cats, small wild cats are multidimensional indicators of biodiversity as well as human well-being. So there are several dimensions, and these dimensions you can categorize them in two broad categories: well-being of the biodiversity and well-being. If the biodiversity is okay, then the human well-being also is okay. So right from livelihood to to adaptation to climate change, and if the biodiversity is okay. So that was it. Those were the opening remarks. So thank you once again for your presence and participation. So I hope to hear you soon. Thank you very much. All the best.
So much, sir, for those opening remarks. And on that note, we now move on to the first talk for today's webinar. So I would like to invite Dr. Yogesh Gokhale, who is an ecologist by training and has previously served in the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change before joining TERI in his present capacity as a senior fellow in the Land Resource Division. His work has spanned over 2 decades and covers, involvement in multilateral environment agreements such as the CBD and the UNCCD, under which the theme of today's webinar falls. And he has also led the execution, monitoring, and evaluation of watershed management programs. He's currently leading agroforestry-based carbon finance projects across Uttar Pradesh, and his talk today recognizing 2 specific approaches for land restoration and sustainable management to contribute to the sustainable development goals of India towards the global environment. So over to you, Dr. Yogesh, to please begin your talk.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Arundhati, and very thankful to Rajesh Gopal sir for his opening remarks. Is my slide visible and am I audible to all of you? Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
sir, you are.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So,
very much audible.
Sure, sir. Thank you. So, as Arundhati said, that I would be mainly talking about the solution-oriented approach. And before we begin with the topic, I would like to just highlight a few quick things about the land degradation, which is a kind of global concern. And if you read the literature, especially the UNCCD, then Bond Challenge and land degradation neutrality literature, then one would see that there is around 70% of all ice-free land in the world that we have already impacted, and which is affecting over 3.2 billion people in the world. So with the same rate, if we continue, then by 2050, almost 90% of the land which we use, that would be under degradation. So, and that is the reason that UNCCD launched this concept of land degradation neutrality, where it defines land degradation neutrality as a state whereby the amount and quality of land resources necessary to support ecosystem functions and services to enhance food security remains stable or increase within specified temporal and spatial scales and ecosystem. So basically, we need to maintain the scenario. We don't want to enhance the land under degradation, whereas we would like to reduce it. So that is the basic concept under land degradation neutrality. And then for that purpose, a number of cardinal principles those have been designed. Like, for example, to avoid new degradation of land by maintaining existing healthy land. So whatever healthy which we have, we should not lose that. So like, for example, vast stretches of grasslands, protected areas, good forest areas, good reserve forest areas, so that we should not get it further degraded. So that is one point. Reducing existing degradation by adopting sustainable land management practices. So wherever there is a pressure in land management, we need to look for sustainable solutions and to restore and return degraded lands to a natural or more productive state. Like, for example, the open mined areas where after mining, the mines are left barren, unattended. So we should try to look for such areas where new areas can be added and made productive in terms of land. So like there are a number of such cardinal principles that land degradation neutrality looks forward to, maintaining and improving the sustainable delivery of ecosystem service. That's the purpose in terms of for land degradation neutrality. Increasing the resilience of land, synergy with other social, economic, and environmental objectives, and reinforcing and promoting responsible and inclusive land governance, because governance also has a huge role to play in process of land degradation neutrality. So there is also a very interesting process that has begun by government of Germany under the process called Bonn Challenge, where it aims at by 2030 over 350 million hectares of land is brought under land degradation neutrality program. So that much of land it means restored. So India has, this is a voluntary pledging mechanism, and India has also pledged 26 million hectare of land towards Bonn Challenge. Let me tell you that most of this area of 26 million hectare, which Government of India has assured or pledged, that largely goes towards the watershed development programs that Government of India conducts through Department of Land Resources, DOLR. So one of the flagship schemes, that is Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, PMKSY, which is to be earlier called as IWMP, that is Integrated Watershed Management Program. So that is how we are intending to complete 26 million hectare. And if you see but that doesn't mean this India has only 26 million hectare of land under land degradation. We have over 120 million hectare of land which is under the state of various types of degradation. As my slide shows, water erosion, wind erosion, water and acid soil. Soil is the main component where the degradation that takes place. So if we see that if we need to achieve the sustainability or the sustainable development goals, and then if we are facing by the serious concerns of land degradation, then here we are proposing two solutions. One is the watershed development approach, and another is agroforestry based carbon finance. So I will quickly move towards the first solution, that is watershed development approach, which is any watershed is a hydrological unit draining to a common point by a system of drains. So entire India has been mapped in form of several micro watersheds, and under various programs, Government of India and other through CSR, through private institutions, efforts are through state level programs, efforts are being made to treat these watersheds and maintain the soil and water in those micro watershed in a healthy manner. So this program, if we go to the chronology of watershed, history of watershed management in India, so we had initially in 1960s the River Valley Conservation Program, Based on that, in Maharashtra, there was an innovative scheme that began, which is the original mother of Mahatma Gandhi Manrega scheme, which is right now going on in India. But here in Maharashtra, there are also a lot of, in Manrega also, large number of soil and water conservation activities, they are done in present way also. But in 1970s, when employment guarantee scheme in Maharashtra began, it began with soil works. So that, it intended at retaining soil, retaining water post the drought, because 1972 was marked by a severe drought in Maharashtra, not only in Maharashtra, many parts of India. So this learning gave rise to the program called Drought Prone Areas Development Program, which is called as DPAP, then which was launched in 1973-74. And over a period, Government of India also parallelly launched Desert Development Program, then IRDP, Integrated Rural Development Program. So every program gradually became a kind of learning experience, and learning from those programs, new programs were launched. Present day PMKSY has lot to learn from, rather has learned from the NWDPRA program, which was launched in 1991. And then now we have Niranchal, that is World Bank assisted watershed management programs in some of the states in India. So through that, over a period, India has treated over 60 million hectare of land under different types of watershed management program across India. So these programs, they offer a very interesting milieu of activities, that is social institutions, so which basically works in a participatory manner, involves Panchayati Raj institutions. There is a watershed committee at the PRI level. There is a technical support provided. There are local institutions which are formed, like self-help groups, user groups. So it works on societal aspects. It works on actual restoration and productivity of land, soil, water, agriculture, livestock, forests, and it also parallelly gives opportunity for alternative livelihoods and capacity building, where to provide additional income to the local communities. And thus it basically very comprehensively addresses the sustainable development goals. So like, for example, the SDG 1, ending poverty, through self-help groups, user groups, alternative livelihood programs are launched, and those are very successful models that you see across the India. The Sustainable Development Goal 2, SDG 2 on ending hunger, where improved varieties of agricultural seeds are provided, improved crop varieties, integrated pest management and nutrient management programs are launched, so that food security is taken care. To address gender equality and empowering women, SHG oriented activities are implemented under these programs. For sustainable management of water and sanitation for all, piped drinking water and rejuvenation of drinking resources, construction of sewage canals, these activities are largely done in this program. Under SDG 7, different types of energy saving devices are launched, improved cook stoves, solar based cooking devices, lighting equipments, access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Then SDG 8 for the inclusive and sustainable economic growth, activities such as rural roads, footpaths, such as the connectivity that and the infrastructure that is targeted. Under SDG 10, inequalities targeted by addressing the type of categorization of beneficiaries, like BPL, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, nomadic tribes, which are they become prioritized beneficiaries out of these schemes. So like there are SDG 13, 15, 16, number of such programs are part of this Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, and it's a very successful model of addressing and combating land degradation, but at the same time enhancing local biodiversity, agro-biodiversity, enhancing soil and water quality, productivity, and then adding more land or rather gaining more land from degraded to productive status. This is one of the very effective way of handling the land degradation. Second point that with the given small time we have today, I would like to rush through to the second aspect, that is potential of agroforestry in India. Recently, there is Niti Aayog has come out with a report called Grow, and they mentioned that there is additional 29 million hectare of land which can be actually brought under agroforestry, which is beyond the existing agricultural area in the country. So currently we have around 25 million hectare of land which is under agroforestry. So if we add another 29 million, so almost it is nearing to more than 50 million hectare of area which can be potentially brought under agroforestry, which where this 28 million hectare is actually a village commons and barren areas which are getting degraded in process and are also neglected for various reasons. This is a huge potential where we can add additional carbon sequestration mechanism, and it can be incentivized. And I will show you how this can be done. The carbon market is a very effective way for doing this. And carbon market is that works on principles like polluter pays principle. So if you sequester carbon by having plantations or mixed plantations or mini forest areas, then it sequesters carbon. That carbon can be measured effectively using various established methodologies. There are platforms which can actually certify that, and through those standards on those platforms, those who would wish to purchase or offset their carbon emissions, they can purchase these carbon credits. And in process, number of activities take place. This becomes a very participatory way of handling land degradation, but at the same time incentivizing communities. Currently, we have only option of voluntary carbon market because the compliance market has been stopped for a while, halted for a while because of the expiry of the Kyoto Protocol. So we have a very strong option of voluntary carbon market, which is also not a small scope, where we have a large number of voluntary carbon market registries which are available, like Vera, like Gold Standard, and so on and so forth, which are operating in India. In a nutshell, if one could see that in normal forest area, natural forest, we have 5 pools of carbon, but in agroforestry system we measure 3 pools of carbon, where dead wood and litter is not available for measurement, because that is collected during the process of agroforestry management and use. So we have above ground biomass, below ground biomass, and soil carbon that gets actually worked out, or that is counted. There are established methodologies where basically the plantation takes place. There is a preparation of PDD, that is project design document. There is a registration of project. There is preparation of monitoring report and further registration, and then the process of issuance and sale of VRs that happens. So this is a flow diagram of developing the carbon finance project. It is actually a complex process, but for the purpose of explanation, I have tried to make it in a flow chart. My organization, TERI, has been involved in developing more than 28 projects across different parts of India, and we have a very robust experience of working both on agroforestry as well as REDD plus carbon finance projects in India. There are typical way in which where there is a project proponent or owner who basically owns or implements the plantation activity. Here, there can be private institutions, or there can be farmers, group of farmers. There can be government institutions who can become the project proponent. They can get on board carbon development expert who would actually develop proposal based on the requirement methodologies of given standard. And there can be investor who would actually invest in developing the carbon finance proposal, for trade on behalf of community, and pass on the carbon revenue to the local communities. Yeah. So this is the way in which this works. We recently had a very successful success in terms of Punjab, where we have and from 2 projects we have created over 6,80,000 carbon credits, and those the trade of those carbon credits, the revenue will be passed on to over 4,000 farmers in 2 forest circles in Punjab. This is an agroforestry based plantations, and it's available on Vera website. Those who are interested in understanding the details of the same. So it's an additional benefit and additional sequestration, starting from the rate like $6 per ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. That is, one credit would cost not less than $6. Farmers are free for sale of timber, wood. Then farmers are supposed to fell tree for sale at the end of the rotation. So the new generation of credits that keeps happening. Overall, it's a win-win situation. So there's a new employment opportunity that's get created. There's an additional income happens. There's a local financing mechanism takes place. There is a farmer industry partnership that takes place. New institutions form. Gender equality is maintained or enhanced. There's an improved air quality, soil quality, and biodiversity from the afforestation of degraded lands that take place, and this improves access to education and to the society. I stop here, and I look forward to other presentations as well as any questions related to that. Arundhati, over to you now.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for the presentation. And we take question answers for this session towards the end. We now move on to the second talk for today, which is by Dr. Ayan Sadhu, who is a research scientist with the Tiger Cell NTCA WII. So Dr. Ayan is a conservation ecologist with expertise in carnivore conservation, landscape ecology, trophic interactions, human dimensions in wildlife conservation, and using modern technologies to monitor biodiversity. His research currently involves studying the ecology and behavior of carnivore gills in the semi-arid ecosystems of India. And his talk today would be on small wildcats, which are sentinels of a thriving ecosystem, and how monitoring their population will provide insights into overall health and sustainability of the environment. So over to you, Ayan.
Yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Arundhati?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Nice.
And I hope my presentation is visible.
Yeah.
Sorry, I am in a little poor
Yes.
network. I'm in Corbett right now. So
Okay.
yeah.
Very clear and nice light you're showing us.
Thank you, sir. Today what we are going to talk about is the land restoration, as the theme directs for this particular World Environment Day. And I will actually show the glimpse of small cats and how we can use the small cats as an indicator as well as a device to restore this the so-called wastelands and the degraded lands in with special reference to India. So, as Dr. Rajesh Gopal was talking about the importance of small cats, not only about the ecosystem and the particular niche they occupy, but at the same time, they actually can be used as an umbrella. Okay, so not an umbrella like the tiger umbrella, but an umbrella if you are thinking about diverse of habitat they are occupying, and you can actually use this key to actually restore those diverse kind of habitats. So with that, I will just briefly describe the small cats, which I believe are the sentinels of a thriving ecosystem. So coming to the habitats, the small cats occupying. So it actually ranges from very diverse habitats. If you are aware about the small cats which are found in India, so any felids which are ranges between 1 kilograms to 15 to 20 kilograms, we consider them as a small cats. So we have the world's smallest cat, which is rusty spotted cat. At the same time, we have fishing cat, which is amongst the the largest small cats in India. So they occupy very diverse habitats. So many of the cats like jungle cat, desert cats, rusty spotted cat, they occupy open forest ecosystem. I mean, sorry, not rusty spotted, jungle cat, desert cat, caracal, and ravines ecosystem. Here you can see the spectacular Chambal ravines on the top. And this is one of the degraded land we consider, and we spend thousands of rupees to restore these lands. But these are the habitats of not only the small cats, but the wolves and hyenas and foxes and jackals. So this is one of the most rich ecosystem which we talk about. And frankly, we don't have to restore this ecosystem, we just have to preserve this. So small cats can be one of these particular species, or the guild of guild which we can target, and then we can preserve this kind of lands. Down there you can see it's a open forest system, grassland, mesic savanna habitat. So this is also occupied by your caracals and desert cat, jungle cat, and all these other cats. Very interestingly, apart from the forested ecosystems and the natural, so-called natural ecosystems, small cats, many of these small cats, they occur in human-dominated landscape, be it fishing cat, be it jungle cat, be it rusty spotted cat. So when they occur in this kind of human-dominated landscape, and many of us don't know they occur over there. So if you probably talk to the local villagers, they might sometimes say that, okay, that billy was over there, but that billy can actually consist of jungle cat, desert cat, or you even sometimes caracal. So it's a very interesting and at the same time very challenging, because when they occur outside the protected area, you have to put a lot of effort to conserve their habitat. Otherwise, they are constantly under threats, like like roadkills. And when we talk about small cats, many of the small cats habitats, as I was talking about, actually way across the protected area network of India. So many of the highways, rail lines, and other linear infrastructures are actually crisscrossing through these small cat habitats. And when they are running across their habitat, these kind of incidents are not so uncommon. So this is one of the major threats when it's particularly concentrating on small cats. Apart from that, there are other emerging threats about, poaching, targeted killing, especially for fishing cats. If you talk about West Bengal area, there are a lot of studies already doing by the researchers. They highlighted the issue that the local fishermen, they don't like fishing cats around their surroundings, because the fishing cats are known to feast on the fish, which is actually the economic benefits of that particular communities. So they particularly persecute fishing cats. Apart from that, there are a lot of non-targeted killings. So for example, if you poison a carcass and the small cats are coming over there, they eating that poisoned carcass, they get died out of poisoning. So these are the major threats which are human induced. Apart from that, another human-induced major threat is habitat loss. So the small cats, many of the small cats, they use the grassland ecosystem, the open forest ecosystem, which we often call the open natural ecosystem, or ONE. So these habitats are often considered as the wastelands, because we the human, do not get economical benefits out of these lands. And when you don't get economical benefits in terms of agriculture, in terms of industry, we consider them as wasteland. And we spend a lot of effort and money to restore this wasteland. And this kind of wastelands, which actually consist of very rich wildlife areas, like your grasslands, like ravines, like the scrublands. So these are the habitats of many of these small cats. Especially one of the most endangered cats in India, which is caracal, they thrive in this kind of ecosystem. Be it ravines, the ravines of Chambal, which is infamous for their dacoits, as well as degraded lands we consider. But these lands are full of biodiversity. If we are going to flatten these ravines and make them an agricultural land, so we are going to lose all these small cat populations, which is quite detrimental to the entire conservation of entire biodiversity. Another important thing when we talk about small cats is that many of the small cats, as I was mentioning, they live in the agricultural ecosystem. And as the previous studies by many of the researchers like Dr. Shomita Mukherjee and all showed that their diet consists of rodent. So majority of their diets actually consist of rodents. When they live in agricultural ecosystem, without our knowledge also, they are actually harvesting a lot of this paste, which we call this, the ratus, mass Bengalins, mass domesticus, all these rodent paste, they are actually killing on a daily basis. And to fulfill their dietary needs, they need probably 10 to 15 rodents in per cycle. So which is a lot. and they are the particular kind of species which are controlling this rodent population. If you move this small cat population out of that ecosystem, the rodent population will flourish to an extent where your crop will be actually damaged by the rodent population, and all the farmers, they are going to have economic loss. So this is the intricacy of conserving small cats in India, because in India, culturally, we have a very rich tradition of living with wildlife. And when it comes to small cats, they don't, unlike their big brothers like tigers and lions and leopards, they do not kill or affect human beings in most of the cases. So in that case, you do not have a threat to human life from the small cats. At the same time, when you have a thriving small cat population in your surrounding areas, so that time you can actually control the rodent population, the pest populations, which actually can give you a lot of economical benefits. So it's not about the biological or the ecological benefits. You are going to get economical benefits by conserving these small cats. So this is very much important to consider when we talk about small cat conservation. So it's not about the restoring habitats outside protected areas, but at the same time, they can live in harmony with many of these local communities and give us a lot of benefits. So I'll just quickly go through the work what me and our team, our all our colleagues, we have done as a part of the All India Tiger Estimation exercise. That from the camera trapped information, what we got from all the tiger bearing areas, which consist of both protected areas as well as outside protected areas, we mapped the distribution and the potential distribution of 9 small cat species in India. So excluding the Eurasian lynx. Here I am just showing the 6 of them. We start with the jungle cat in the left top corner, and you can see jungle cat, and then coming to leopard cat, which is the second one. If you can, I don't know if you can see my mouse pointer. This is the leopard cat distribution. This is jungle cat distribution, and so this is rusty spotted cat distribution. So here comes the caracal distribution. This is desert cat distribution, and this is the fishing cat distributions. So you can see, apart from fishing cat and to some extent caracal, most of these small cats are found out in most of the forested habitats in India. So when we talk about conserving the larger carnivores like tigers and leopards, so you can also by conserving those particular habitats, you can actually conserve the smaller cats like jungle cat and leopard cats and all. The interesting part is that not only the tiger reserves or the tiger bearing areas, if you can see these maps, their distributions ranges much beyond the tiger range areas. So they actually occur, and there are potential habitats for small cats which goes beyond the existing protected area network. So here comes the catch. If you want to protect and if you want to safeguard these small cat populations, we have to start investing the areas which are outside the protected areas as well. Because inside the protected areas, we mostly have tigers or the lions or the other large predators or mega herbivores like rhinos or elephants as an umbrella species. This umbrella species concept is an excellent concept when it comes to protected area and conserving of biodiversity. But now, as Rajesh Gopal sir was saying, the time has come, we should focus on the biodiversity which exists outside the protected areas. I mean, all these maps, if you combine all these maps, you can actually find out that around 70 to 80% of the India's forest ecosystems and the Indian wildlife habitats are actually occupied by these small cats. So why not we start conserving the small cats and then created policies which can actually talk to each other, bring different divisions, different agencies together, and then started a concerted effort of conserving these small cats in India. By doing that, we can actually conserve the entire ecosystem, and not only small cats. If we are conserving small cats, you can also conserve, there are many other species like your wolves, jackals, hyenas. All these species can be conserved under the umbrella of small cat conservation. With this, I would like to end my talk, and thank you so much for giving this opportunity to talk about small cats, which is always my first love when I started my career with small cat. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Ayan, for the wonderful presentation on small cats and how they are important, in terms of ecosystem thriving. So we now move on to the question and answer session for today's talk. You can stop sharing your screen, Ayan. Right. So now we move on to the question and answer session for today's talk. So we'll take questions for Dr. Yogesh first. So, sir, the first question for you is, can you elaborate more on the desert integration program that you mentioned?
It was implemented back in 70s, especially in post 1972 drought in various parts of India where the Rajasthan also was not spared. So this is the part of evolutionary process of developing integrated watershed development programs across India. So it was a historical program that we had done in 1970s in India.
Right, sir. And so the next question for you is that, are there any government initiatives for land restoration apart from watershed management and agroforestry that the government is implementing at present?
Well, we have a National Agroforestry Policy 2014. Under that, there is one SMAF scheme that has been implemented in various states in India. At the same time, there are a number of other activities like, say, Bamboo Mission, Bamboo Development, Bamboo Boards across states, which are not necessarily, which are basically the agroforestry activities. So, agroforestry policy is a promotional policy where it supports such kinds of programs. Then we have a number of horticultural programs where the Fallback program, that's what the state government had, which is oriented at planting fruit trees like oranges and so on across Northeast. It's a very famous scheme, various state governments that they implement. Then various species like bear, those are planted in many parts of India. So the horticulture, floriculture, these are some of the schemes which are run through various rural development as well as agriculture departments across the country. So the agroforestry is distributed or across the schemes of agriculture departments of central government, state governments. Then to a certain extent, agroforestry is also done in form of plantation forestry by forest development corporations across India. So because the forest corporations have a mandate to plant trees, harvest, and develop timber from the plantations. So these are type of agroforestry plantations. So there are a number of schemes where agroforestry systems are implemented by center, by state, and other entities as well.
All right, sir. And so coming to the next question for you is that, what type of carbon market is usually preferred, considering that the old regime has expired due to the Kyoto Protocol. But despite that, what is based on the trend that you have seen, what type of carbon market do you think is preferred at present?
It is basically what I mentioned, that is voluntary carbon market. Yeah, that is preferred at this point of time. There are platforms such as Vera, Gold Standard. These standards are preferred. Interestingly, many of these standards do not appreciate Indian conditions in terms of ecosystem, species, productivity, and we really need Indian standards which recognized our part of world, the way agroforestry is done, the timber is grown, the productivity of species, and so on and so forth. So, but these international standards do have some provisions, but still they fail to recognize completely, and that becomes a limitation for us also to pass on the real benefits of carbon sequestration to the farmers across India.
Right. So, and coming to the last question for you is that, how receptive have farmers been to the agroforestry approaches? Are they comfortable, changing their plantation regime and, working together for this?
Well, there are a number of agroforestry models which are practiced traditionally in India, and where there is a kind of commercial linkage that has taken place. And I think that has taken place significantly in two parts in India. One is the Haryana, Punjab, the Gangetic Plain, which is also called as poplar belt, because the species of poplar that is planted across and in and around Yamuna Nagar district, especially in Haryana, then Western UP, where extensive agroforestry belt that is found. it's a very interesting linkage. There is a industrial demand, and people are planting or satisfying that industrial demand through plantations. There are two more such examples across India that one would find. Both are in South India. One is in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, where ITC based systems are plantations are there, where paper pulp and plywood industry supply chain happens, and another is in Tamil Nadu, where extensive agroforestry plantations have taken place basically to supply for paper pulp and timber industry. So we have very good successful models in India. Those are available, which have helped extensively industry and farmer linkage and having a win-win conditions.
Right, so those were the questions for you. We now move on to the questions for Dr. Ayan. So Ayan, the first question for you is that, so you mentioned how small wildcats, act as regulatory, have a role to play in regulatory services. What other kind of ecosystem services do small wildcats provide, if there is anything that you'd like to add on to it?
Yeah, so the one of the major ecosystem services provided by the small cats is definitely controlling the rodent population, as I already mentioned. Apart from that, they also, contribute to the overall ecosystem health. Okay, so when the small cat population or thriving small cat population is there, you can all talk about harvesting the other species, and then also there's a mesopredator release hypothesis also there. If you look into this hypothesis, into this changing landscape, it actually acts as a very different manner for small cats. Apart from that, the small cats also, there is a different kind of aspects when it comes to many of the small cats. They help regulating the fish population even, and the connectivity between the landscape for other wildlife to thrive.
All right, Ayan. And the last question for you, and I mean the next question for you, is that you said most of the small wildcats, based on the distribution maps that you showed, are mostly in interface areas, means close to the forest areas. So when we talk about land restoration, which is one of the theme for today's webinar, what measures do you think can be taken to safeguard these habitats at interface places?
So the distribution maps I showed, so those are based on the forested areas, because the data we generated, the camera data, you cannot put cameras very often to the farmlands and record the distribution of small cats. But we all know that these cat species are present in this ecosystem. So which I could not mention. I had few slides I will share with you later on. But the small cat conservation cannot come the same way with the tiger conservation. When you just conserve a patch and then conserve the entire ecosystem, it's a lifestyle thing. Many of these farmers and fishermen, they're living with these small cats for hundreds of years. It's a sustainable livelihood they are doing, and the respect to other life forms, which our culture actually taught us for thousands of years. We should abide by that, and that will actually create a niche for the small cats. You don't have to conserve very actively the small cat ecosystem per se, but you can just leave them alone. They will thrive in that ecosystem.
All right, Ayan. So those were the questions. And with
Thank
that,
you.
we come to the conclusion of today's webinar. So on behalf of the Global Tiger Forum, I would like to thank both our speakers, Dr. Yogesh Gokhale, Dr. Ayan Sadhu, and Dr. Rajiv Gopal for giving the opening remarks. And I would also like to thank the audience who've been part and patient and have learned more about, the kind of practices that are in place for land restoration, especially when we talk about carbon markets, and the kind of intensive work that Terry does when we talk about agroforestry and watershed management. And also how small wildcats are also indicators of a thriving ecosystem. So when you do visit a protected area and see a small cat, do ensure that, you realize the importance that that species also plays in that entire ecosystem. So, Dr. Gopal, would you like to say a few words before
Yeah.
conclude?
Just
Yes.
a few lines. I just need to appreciate both the young participants for the wonderful comprehensive presentation, and also you for organizing this and the questions. They were very important, and both these speakers articulated on various thematic areas. Ayan in particular touched upon the mesopredator release. We'll discuss about it separately. It's a very detailed thing. Maybe a webinar later we can think of on mesopredator release and what really happened in Sariska. There are some papers, some observations. We can, request NTCA to, I mean, ask the Tiger Cell to give all those details to Dr. Ayan in this team. So can think of all that because it's very important for field managers. And all those important things which Dr. Gokhale pointed out, and they become very relevant in the context of a landscape approach. So, so we need to add those, we need to envision those problems, those treasures, and suggest some, actions in the landscape master plan. That was another thing. Lastly, one more thing came to my mind, and Dr. Ann touched upon the thing, rightfully that we can't do the kind of management in situ effort which we contemplate for big cats like the tiger. In exclusive tiger core areas and all that, when small cats do co-occur with them, but then the niche is also there, as he said, in the countryside. You are aware, Arundhati, you have been seeing them, the community stewardship, and how best as a citizen science we can foster conservation of small cats. So that we can have a separate webinar. Those themes
Right.
are important. Thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you so much once again to our speakers and to the audience for being patient and listening to it. And we'll meet you for our next webinar soon. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Thank you.
Namaskar. Namaskar. Thank you.